When I was a wee lad, I lived in a place that was a bit odd. It wasn't on any maps and was known as Sonder, somewhere in the north of England, betwixt Scotland and Scarborough. The place definitely exists. I lived there for 15 years after all. But for some reason, Sonder doesn't appear on any maps, printed, electronic, new, old, coloured, or even on GPS systems. Online, there's only a smattering of mentions on social media. I moved away about 10 years ago, and my memories of the place are of a quiet seaside hamlet. Everyone knew everyone. It was small, but the community was tight-knit. Likely because it was nestled in a valley with a hill at its back, and it wasn't easy to get to, people tended to stay put and live harmoniously. We had a few wee shops in town. My mum ran one of the pubs, though I was too young to drink at the time. My favourite spot was Uncle Peter's Pizza Shop, located between our house and my mum's pub. Every Friday after work, Mum would bring home pizzas for my brother Jacob and me. That's why my memories of Uncle Peter are particularly fond. As the internet and mobile phones became more common, it was still rare to hear about Sonder. Those who did stumble upon it noted how weak the GPS signal was there. It was almost as if the place didn't want to be visited, so it remained quaint and unassuming. My childhood in Sonder had its mysteries too. One peculiar thing was that all the electronics, fridges, TVs, everything, bore the same logo, a circle with a V in the middle. Even the local moving company had this symbol. I lived in Sonder until I was 15. After leaving, I tried searching online for this V logo company, but never found anything. If anyone knows, feel free to drop a comment. So, that's the gist of the town, an ordinary unnamed seaside town. But then there's my experience, the reason we left without looking back. I've always felt something not quite right in Sonder. It wasn't that I'd seen monsters or experienced anything overtly supernatural. No, it was the singing. Sonder is in a low-lying area, backed by a hill. At night, every few months, you'd hear a soft, high-pitched melodic scream from the hilltop. It was oddly soothing if you listened long enough. Sometimes it sounded like one person, other times like several, but no one ever saw what was making the noise. Whenever someone mentioned hearing the singing again, it was a topic of hushed conversation. Didn't I mention earlier that the town was in a lowland backed by a hill? Well, every few months at night, you could hear a soft yet high-pitched scream coming from the hilltop. Yes, it was both gentle and shrill, with a sort of melody to it. If you listened long enough, you might even find it strangely pleasing. Sometimes it sounded like one person, other times like several people singing or calling out together. But no one ever saw what it was. It was common for households to remark, "I heard it again. The singing has started, and it's been going on for weeks now." Invariably, after a while, there was a 70% chance someone would go missing. Some who lived alone would disappear for days before anyone noticed they were gone. But what was really disturbing was when people who lived together would wake up to find someone missing, like waking up and asking, "Where's my husband?" And just like that, they were gone. My mum told me these incidents had been happening even before she was born. Many adults had gone up the hill to search, but never found anything. The elders would say it was the echo of hope, but I never believed that. Every time it happened, someone would disappear. Some hope, that was. I was always terrified, but my brother found it funny. I think he found it amusing because he had never experienced a loved one being taken away, so he couldn't understand the fear and sorrow. But now, he surely understands. The incident happened on June 21st, the summer solstice of my 15th year in Sonder. the town held a small festival, which was quite historic, dating back almost 97 years. It celebrated the longest day of the year, so it started just before sunset, around 9:30 p.m. due to Sonder's high latitude. Normally, with so many people gathered, it should have been a happy occasion. But this time, everyone was uneasy because it coincided with the period when the singing started, 3 weeks prior. The singing from the hills was getting louder week by week. On the day of the festival, although no one had yet been reported missing, everyone's speech and behavior seemed unnatural, betraying an underlying panic. Since my mum owned a pub, it became the gathering place for our family and neighbours, leaving fewer customers. My brother, around 17 at the time, and I were not allowed to wander off because we were underage and the festival could get chaotic. So, we sat at the bar, me with a wine mixed with sparkling water and him with wine, while Mum got busy. With the festival in full swing and the pub bustling with people, my brother suddenly asked me if I wanted to go up the hill. I almost choked on my drink. He suggested we go check out the source of the singing. I was very scared, but perhaps it was the alcohol or the fact that the festival's singing and dancing drowned out the eerie sounds from the hill. I agreed. When Mum got too busy to remember she had 2 sons, my brother and I sneaked out of the pub. The town was small, and after walking about 10 streets to the outskirts, the music from the festival was no longer audible, and the singing from the hills was all that could be heard. No one from the town or my mum would dare go up the hill at that time to investigate, no matter how brave. But we did. We started climbing the hill path, relying on the town lights for guidance. But as we walked further, the lights grew dimmer. When we reached a part of the forest where the lights didn't reach, I started to regret my decision. I asked my brother if he was really serious about this. He didn't say anything, just nodded. I knew he would nod, no matter how many times I asked, because it was only me who was scared. He found all this mystery quite amusing, so we walked deeper into the forest, the sound growing louder. After about 5 minutes, we reached a clearing in the middle of the dark forest. The sound was almost right in front of us, very loud. And what did we see? Just a stone about as tall as I was at 15. My brother laughed, dismissing it as just some random noise. "Why is there even a stone here?" he joked. He thought the sound might be the wind passing through a crevice in the rock. "Nothing to be scared of. Let's head back," he said. I could tell he was trying to comfort me because I had been shaking the whole way, and he kept hugging me. But his words did not reassure me. In fact, they only proved he couldn't see what I could. I don't know if it was because I was younger or what, but I saw someone standing on that stone. Or should I say, someone? It was too tall to be a person, and the more you looked at it, the stranger it appeared, with limbs and features assembled in odd ways. I used the word assembled because the placement of its hands, feet and facial features just felt wrong. I don't know if you can understand what I mean. It definitely had a nose, eyes, hands and feet. But things were off, like the eyebrows being too far apart, or the hands being too far from the shoulders. The legs staggered instead of side by side. That was the kind of impression it gave. Yet its hands were where hands should be, and the nose was in the right place. This thing was standing on the stone and singing. My legs were so scared they wouldn't move, and my reaction was to grab my brother. But he truly couldn't see it. He hugged me and asked what was wrong. As soon as he spoke, the thing started singing, or rather, screaming again. I frantically pulled my brother to run back, but he was heavier than me, and I couldn't move him. I kept looking back as we ran, thankful he was following. He kept asking why I was running and teasing me for being a scaredy cat. I was glad he couldn't see that inhuman, ghostly thing. He was running with me purely to keep up. I was so panicked that I stumbled and ran all the way back. When we reached the edge of town, I couldn't hold back my emotions any longer. I stood there crying, hugging my brother as he tried to clean the dirt and wounds on my body, asking me what we saw. I couldn't speak, too frightened to answer. Once I realized we could no longer hear the singing, I began to explain, crying and sniffling. I started to say, "Back there, by that stone. I saw on that stone." But before I could finish, I realized I was hugging thin air. My brother had vanished. Just a moment ago, he was comforting me, and then he was gone. My first instinct was to find him, but I had no idea where he went. He just disappeared in a flash. Regaining some sense, I knew my mum would be closing the pub at that time, so I went home to tell her everything. But the strange thing was, after listening to me, she didn't decide to look for my brother or get angry about us going to the forest. Instead, she just hugged me and we just kept crying together. I don't remember if it was me who got tired from crying and my mum put me to bed, or if she got tired and I looked after her. It's all a bit blurry now. What I clearly remember is that the next day, a Friday, my mum woke me up before I had fully rested. The first thing she said was, "Pack up your room, we're leaving soon." I asked her where we were going, and she simply said, "We're moving, we can't stay here anymore." I quickly packed my things in less than an hour, and my mum and I left Sonder. Even though many years have passed since I left, I know Sonder is still there. If you're curious and happen to be living or studying near Scarborough, you might try looking for it yourself.